Okay, good morning. Welcome to this session on for the Best Plans Conference on Winning with the Green. I'm Joyce Swenke from SAP, and I'd like to welcome our speaker today, who is Gail Teddams. She's Director of Sustainability for OwensCorning, and her role encompasses global accountability for strategic development in greening our products and effectively communicating the OwensCorning sustainability practices. She has over 30 years of experience at OwensCorning, and she delivered successful results across several of lines of business and functional areas. Teddams is the president of LUAS, Lake Erie Western Alliance for Sustainability, and she's a frequent guest speaker at major energy forums, conferences, and a media spokesperson on the topics of global sustainability. She has a bachelor's in civil engineering from Michigan State University, so please welcome Gail.
Thanks very much. So, we're here to talk about sustainability today, and I tried to make the introduction to the topic a little provocative so that we would, try to get as much dialogue and interaction today so that it makes it interesting for everybody to hear what's going well and what are some of the pitfalls that people may be finding as they embark on greening and sustainability. And first I thought we'd just talk about a little bit about who OwensCorning is to set that context. We were founded in 1938. We've been in business for over 70 years and finding ways to use glass fibers, both in insulation. We invented the glass fiber insulation process, and also in our composites business that are fibers that are used in reinforced plastics. So those are the two main areas, and then we've added other building products along the years, including transforming roofing materials into glass fiber-based materials versus felt-based. Our sales last year were around $4.8 billion. We're in 30 countries, so it is a global enterprise, particularly with our composites business. We've been on the Fortune 500 for over 55 years, or for 55 consecutive years. We were recently ranked 56 for the Newsweek top 500 companies in the United States, so we're proud of that. We were also recently named to Corporate Responsibility magazine, and that's part of doing the communications and becoming more transparent about what we're doing that we've gotten this recognition. So that's something we can talk about for your businesses as well. So that's a little bit about us. I want to start talking about what's going on in the marketplace today. Why is sustainability even talked about? And we always start from the outside in at OwensCorning of looking at what's happening, what's driving markets, what's driving our business. And certainly we call it the perfect storm. There's the issue of energy availability, the climate change being a basis with fossil fuel consumption as a foundation of global warming and climate change, and also then population growth. As we are sitting here today, we're at around 6 billion people in the world. By 2050, it's expected to go to over 9 billion. And the developing nations of China and India, the population is exploding there. Plus, the fact that those nations, those developing nations, want to have the same lifestyle that we have here, and the same types of opportunities. So the consumption of goods, from going from a population of 6 billion to 9 billion and consuming even more, is really going to put a strain on our resources. So energy, climate change, and just the consumption of resources combines to make quite a marketplace where there's certainly issues around that, but there's also opportunities for all of us to work in that and recognizing it and actually achieving as a result of that. We know that there is interest in energy efficiency globally, as well as there's legislation being talked about right now in Washington around energy and around climate change. Personal desire to achieve sustainability. There's a lot of consumer and market research being done to say that the green movement is gaining ground. It is not just a fad. People are starting to be more concerned about what they're doing and who they're buying from, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. as well as in our business particularly, the green building movement is really what sparked our journey into sustainability. We had really looked at it from the insulation standpoint of what is going on with green building, LEED certification, the desire for greener solutions, and particularly energy efficiency. But we realized that we couldn't talk about sustainability just from one department in our company. We had to look at it from a corporation standpoint. So that's what really got us started back in 2005. So what is sustainability? If you look it up in the dictionary, it tells you it's the property of being sustainable, which doesn't really help you too much. So looked up sustainable, and you get a little better definition of maintaining ecological balance. But I prefer to really use two words of flourish forever. If you're growing, if you're flourishing, if you think of that word, and you can do it forever, that means you're not using up all your resources, and you're continually saving some for the future and making sure that you're going to have a prosperous future. So I like that definition a little bit better. You've seen a lot of different words that may be associated with sustainability. You may be using some of those terms or phrases in your own business, and I won't read all those. You can see all the different ones that may be used. But we really look at it at OwensCorning as the balance of making decisions around economics, environment, and social. How can you bring all of those together? So whenever you're considering something, that those three aspects are looked at, rather than mainly only the economic, which may be what has been typical and probably where we were best at, and not maybe asking those questions around environment and social, and we're doing more of that now, and we're getting better at it. It is a practice. Oh, whoops, let me talk a little bit about the words that you see around the side of the outside. Really, anybody in any position within your company can find themselves on this chart, whether it's around your human resources with job creation and skills enhancement, whether it's in your lean manufacturing processes with resource efficiency, product stewardship, particularly capital efficiency and risk management, that's very important, safety and health, your environmental regulations and what you need to do to comply, and also how do you go beyond that, and diversity and human rights. And I heard someone speaking earlier about they're working in the supply chain, and how do you extend not only the human rights of your own company, but how do you look at that beyond your company to make sure that your influence as well as your reputation are maintained. So it really is a way to bring everyone together in your organization to be able to play a part in sustainability, and that's where you see the middle part there. This is the UN definition that we also have adopted as operating our business today in a way that meets the needs of today, but without compromising the world we leave to the future. So that's that flourish forever definition. So these are the steps that we took along our journey. As I told you, the green building movement is really what kind of spurred us on, but we were doing a lot of things already. We didn't call it sustainability necessarily. I was working in the insulation division. I've had over 30 years of experience with OwensCorning, both in manufacturing, both in the United States and in Norway, as well as marketing and product development. So the mix of those has allowed me to see all parts of our business. And building the case for we actually was looking at the green building market. We're members of the USGBC. We've been active with the different building guidelines that have come along over the years. But as I said, we realized that to call ourselves a sustainable business really needed to encompass the whole company. So we provided a lot of different marketing. We had a green team that was really kind of a grassroots group that provided market data and information to our leadership team. My boss, we have a chief sustainability officer, was appointed to, he wasn't called that at the time, he was in charge of all of our innovation, was appointed to really look into this and what could we do, and a sustainability leader was hired, and this was in 2005. And at that point, we really started to look at what are other companies doing, what does this mean? We really didn't have a good definition. We didn't know really what that strategy would work out to be, but we started to do exploration. We benchmarked companies like DuPont and P&G and 3M, many of our own suppliers we went to find out what they were doing, and also some of our customers to find out what they were doing as well. And then we did our own self-assessment. We realized that we really didn't know how much water we were using in total, how much energy we were using in total. We knew, we had the bills for each facility, but it was a number of people that had to come together to bring all of this information together. And we had to decide what are the elements or the impacts that our company produces. As every company does that makes anything, there's some impact that you make with emissions or using resources. And what were the main ones that we needed to look at? We also did a self-assessment versus what the expectations are from the outside. And that was done through Future 500. That's a company, it's a nonprofit organization out of California. They also have offices in Europe and China. Bill Shireman is the president of that organization. They had a great kind of scorecard thing that he had developed using all the inputs from NGOs like Sierra Club and Greenpeace and social responsibility investment groups. And he had put together a 200 questionnaire, 200 question questionnaire that we gathered people from all parts of our company, and we sat down and took that, and just you answer yes, no, maybe, whether or not you're doing or producing in the different areas, corporate governance, how you're operating, your workplace, community, et cetera. So that kind of set the stage for where were our biggest gaps. And we found out that environment was one of the biggest ones because we didn't know what our impacts were at that time, and that's how we started out in really doing a lot of measurement, a lot of data collection. We set goals and we started reporting, and I'll tell you that the reporting part is probably just as important as all the other, because once you start reporting and you decide that you are going to report, the scrutiny and the integrity of what you're going to say certainly becomes important, because you're going to put that out to the public, and you've got to you've really got to have that commitment, and that really started to help gel what we were doing. So I'm going to talk to you about what our integration is and what our strategy ended up to be. So this is in 2006 we actually formed. Well, I came onto the organization in 2006 as the next sustainability leader, and then in 2007 we formed a whole organization. We actually brought in together folks that were working in environmental and product application, building science, and different parts of our organization that were this applied, and we actually formed a sustainability organization. And we developed our business strategy for greening our operations, greening our products, and accelerating energy efficiency in the built environment. One of the great tips that Bill Shireman gave us as we were finding our way was engage in sustainability in relation to your core business strategy. So we could have gone off and said, well, we're going to solve world hunger, but that's not our core strategy. That we don't know anything about food. Maybe the food manufacturer in the room would have a better opportunity to start to know what the issues are around that, but that's not something we knew anything about. But we do know about energy efficiency, and we do know about buildings, because that's one of our core competencies. So that's why our strategy reflects that, and we started to look at how we can integrate what we already have as a core business strategy and integrate sustainability into that, and to make sure that it's all melded together so that it really works. And that we find also, and as I'm sure that you all have, that there's a lot of things that you're already doing that fit into sustainability. You just didn't call it that before. So for us in greening our operations, it all started with safety. Safety had already been much of a big core value for us, a big stand for us, and we called that we took the stand that safety, that zero injuries was certainly a possibility and something that we were going to stand for in our company. And that started back in the early 2000s after a visit to one of our suppliers where, and it was a mining operation where the safety was very good, and our CEO recognized that safety isn't really a condition of the conditions that you're in, it's a condition of the management system that you have. So we started really looking at what we could do to lower our incident rate, and this is the recordable incident rate for our company, and you can see that we've made a lot of progress, but we're not happy because it's not at zero, and that's where we're going to. So that's part of our sustainability progress. We also decided to look at 7 different aspects of impacts that were important for our operations. We melt glass in most of our facilities, so that's high energy intensity. Plus we have air emissions, greenhouse gas, nitrous oxides, volatile organic carbons, and particulate matter, as well as water, our waste, and of course energy is a big one. So we looked at 2002 as our base year. Why did we choose 2002? That's where we had the data. When you go start doing this, how many of you have done these kind of measurements? A few. Did you find it difficult? Did you find it? Depends on how big your company is. It's incredible, and I'm sure the folks at SAP can probably help us with those systems, as Joyce mentioned. But the amount of data that you have to look at is immense. And 2002 was where we had the best, where we thought the data had the best integrity. So that's why we started there, and we set a 10-year goal for 2002 to 2012. And we set our goals based on intensity, meaning that is per the unit of product that we produce, as well as we also report on our absolute numbers. So we have to do both. We think that's important. We do intensity so that we can see if there's improvement in particular parts of our company, as well as we look at the absolute, because as you change the size of the company, we made a big acquisition a couple of years ago, your intensity can change, and of course your absolute value is definitely going to change. But if your intensity continues to go down, you know you're making progress, even though your company may increase in size and your absolute numbers will go up. And that's a concept that I think we're going to have to continue to educate people on, because we got kudos last year from one of the environmental website articles about dropping some of our numbers, but that's because of the economy. We had a lot of processes shut down. So it's going to come back up when the economy and our plant processes come back up. So that's an education process that we're all going to have to engage in, because it's not really a measure that you want to look at. You also want to look at that intensity level. So we've done these reductions. Let me explain this chart. The outside is where we were in 2002 as an index of 100. The pink in the middle is where we're going to in 2012, and the green is where we are as of 2008. We don't have our 2009 numbers rolled up yet. The greenhouse gas is higher in intensity than where we were before, and that's due to the blowing agent that we use in our rigid foam board production. And that will come down. We have changed over all of our North American operations now to a blowing agent that has a 70% lower global warming potential. So we do have line of sight to that coming down. We have line of sight to all of these. Probably our biggest challenge right now is the VOCs, of getting that number down to below in the pink area within the next 2 years. So these are not slam dunks, although we were pleasantly surprised that we were able to get to water and to our particulate measure down quicker than we thought we would. So we've done it through several ways. Engaged employees is certainly one of them. Getting all of our employees to understand, and this is a constant, ongoing process, and we're really in the middle of it. It's not like we've done it. We're continuing to look at how do we get all 16,000 people understanding what they can personally do in their jobs to meet the goals that we have set for our environmental compliance, as well as the other things that we talked about in sustainability. Also, capital light proven solutions. We were very fortunate to have several DOE assessments. And there's a lot of free stuff that you can get from the government to help you to do this work. EPA has all kinds of partnership programs. We've joined climate leaders. We're also in the EPA Industry Forum for our industry. And there's a lot of tools that they provide. It's our tax dollars at work. You might as well take advantage of it. And the people there are, they love to help industry to do things better and to utilize those tools. The Department of Energy had some grant money available for coming in and bringing experts in to do assessments. We took advantage of that. It was amazing that every one we applied for we got because people simply weren't utilizing it. So there's another thing that you might want to look into. They come in, and we'd bring in people from our different plants. They'd spend 3 days looking at maybe one particular process, pumping systems, for example, or fans, or compressed air and gas systems. And they'd go through the plant, and they'd show everybody in that team coming from the other plants how to do the assessment then back in their plant. So that spread the information. But we had, it ended up being millions of dollars of savings as we go through the year because that savings continues every year, particularly as energy prices go up. So that is something to really consider from an energy standpoint. We've also looked at we have proprietary innovations with our melting technology. And as we acquired the Vetrotex company 2 years ago, we're implementing that proprietary technology into all the glass furnaces that we acquired. So that will bring our intensity down, but also bring the absolute number down as you look at where it had been prior to the takeover or the buyout that we did of that company. So we're really proud of that. We've also increased our recycled glass use. Now that's also, I'll talk about that in greening our products because the higher recycled content is certainly an attribute for products, but it's also good for our process because glass that you're melting that's already been produced takes a lot less energy and there's less emissions when you throw cullet in, which is the small pieces of glass versus the raw materials. So that has helped us. We've also looked at our buildings and our facilities. Our world headquarters is LEED EB, that's existing building certified. We've been able to reduce our energy use in our building every year. And we did this for two reasons. We got it LEED certified both because of proving to ourselves that we've been able to make these accomplishments, but also to work with our customers because we're so involved in the building industry to help them understand that we know what LEED is, we know what the process is, we know the difficulty it is to go through all the documentation, and that leads us to open doors with architects and customers that we can help them with their buildings. We also, we built a new plant in Gresham, Oregon, and that is now LEED certified gold, and that's a new facility that makes rigid foam board insulation. And that opened in July of last year, so we're very proud that we were able to seek LEED certification for a manufacturing facility, which isn't normal, and they don't. You have to apply the commercial LEED process to that, and they were able to do that there with many different established things around transportation and looking at renewable energy. And actually changing out some equipment to make it more energy efficient. The next thing I'll talk about is greening our products as the second tier of our strategy. And a lot of people say, well, what is a green product? And a lot of this is taken from the building industry, but it really applies to pretty much any industry that you're talking about. It's the theme of saving energy and water, saving on materials, whether that's using renewable materials, recycled materials, however it is that you can reduce material usage or use somebody else's waste material, if you will. Avoiding toxic or other elements. So how can your product be, make sure that you have a materials of concern list. We have that. We try to make sure that if we're using a particular material, we're looking at how can we substitute for that. And then not introduce that into our production, into our product development as we go forward. contributing to safe and healthy indoor environment. That does apply mostly to the building industry, but also it's talking about product emissions and how the product is used, as well as then how is the product disposed of at the end of its life. Is it reusable? Can it be recycled? What's the opportunity that it does not have to go into the landfill? And that's something that we particularly are looking at in several of our products as well. These logos along the side are third-party certifiers or verifiers that we can put that label on our products to say to architects or other of our customers, you know, it's not just us saying this. We've got third parties that are coming in and auditing us. We think there's value to this, and we've heard from our customers that there is value to this because it is certified. There's a certification that's out on their website to say that we are either testing or there's an audit that's being taken place to show that, that we have a verification. Green Guard is for low emitting. SCS and UL we have for our recycled content, which we have for our insulation is 50% recycled content. Our stone products, masonry stone veneer is anywhere from 35 to 50, and our foam is at 20. Lead documentation, this is just an example of the kinds of documentation and information that we provide to our customers so that they know how our product performs and where it contributes to these green standards that they may be using. And we found that this to be very important because particularly if you've got two products that are similar, when you've got a choice to make, how is that it can tip in your favor if the customer knows about your green attribute, and how are they going to know about it, and how are they going to be able to make that choice. So the documentation and the marketing of our products becomes very important. It also becomes very important not to greenwash, and that is something that our team, where we used to be, ironically, trying to get our marketing department and our business to be more thoughtful and mindful of talking about the green attributes. Now we're actually having to be, well, you really shouldn't say it that way. Let's make it, make sure that we're not greenwashing or we're not overstating it. So it's always a balance because you don't want to be accused of greenwashing. And greenwashing means that you're kind of overstating. You've seen it. You've seen people talk. It's like the food, you know, light and organic, or sooner or later, the FTC is probably going to be having more guidelines around this. But today, there aren't a lot of guidelines, so you really have to take it upon yourself to maintain that integrity. We have a product stewardship program that looks at all of our claims. Everything has to be verified, and the same way with our green attributes. So 50% recycled content, that's recent actually for our insulation, and then I talked about our new blowing agent that we have in our foam products that is zero ozone depleting, and as well as lower greenhouse gas emissions from that particular product. The other thing I talked about end of life that we've had a challenge in is we make roofing shingles, and up to just recently there really hasn't been much way of disposing of those other than taking it to landfill. And construction waste is one of the highest volumes of waste that goes to landfills today. We've just started at the end of last year to provide an opportunity for our contractors to dispose of shingles in another way, to recycle them. Right now they're going into road paving. We're working with Heritage Environmental Company, and we work together with them to provide that opportunity, and they're actually running the process. So our contractors can sign up to be green preferred contractors, and they will recycle the shingles, take them to local places where it's usually less money for them than taking it to the landfill anyway. So it's a win all the way around. So this is really looking up and down our supply chain of how can we help our customers be more sustainable, and how can we then be able to say that this is a recyclable product rather than always having to take it to the landfill. We're just opening up a new recycle process in Cincinnati today, so that should be coming out. You're probably getting advance notice of that. And we will have 7 or 8 markets open by the end of this year, and we're looking to make that a nationwide distribution point. You really can't say that something's recyclable unless there's a way to recycle it. And if there's no distribution points or no place to drop it off, then then that's an issue that you've got to deal with. And so we get into not only the process of the recycle and where it can go, but also how do you get it there. That was another example with the glass. We have a plant in Kansas City, and there's a brewery there called Boulevard Brewery. Over a beer one night, the folks at Boulevard and the folks at our plant were talking about recycle. The brewery was concerned that they send out 10 million beer bottles every year, and there was no glass recycling in Kansas City. And we said, well, we can't get enough recycled glass, so we brought parties together and ended up that we helped them to put in a new company called Ripple, which is called Ripple Glass. It's a processing plant for the glass. They put in bins all around the community, and they started in November recycling and bringing in all container glass. Doesn't have to be beer bottles, but by the way, a 6-pack of beer will fill one standard cavity with insulation. And so drink up and recycle, please. It's a great story, though, because in the Kansas City area, people can have their beverage of choice, recycle their bottle, and it might end up as insulation in their attic because it's going full circle right there in the community. They are 3 times the volume that they expected to be at right now with the recycled glass, and we're happy to take it. So that's a good story, and we're trying to implement that in other places in the country. So part of that influence and how do you go beyond the walls of your company. In our composites business, we're looking at not only our raw material product, but where does our product go? And we're one of the largest suppliers of reinforcements for the wind blade industry. So in that case, we're looking at how do we also help the wind blade industry or the wind industry can continue to grow, and how do we look at that as a company that we can support that business. So one of these blades it's amazing. As we can increase the strength and the lighter weight of those blades, they can get longer and much more efficient, and continue to bring that cost down to where it's more feasible. So that brings us into accelerating energy efficiency, and we look at it a couple different ways. We're looking at our building science, which is really an integrated approach of how do buildings work, how do all the parts work together, what are the forces, the physics of the vapor movement, air movement, heat movement, and how do you provide good solutions to enhance the performance of a building and also its durability. So that is, we have a whole organization around that. And a lot of people don't know, because we only hear about transportation usually in the news, that buildings are the largest user of energy in the United States and really globally. 40% of all energy is used by buildings. 70% of all electricity is used by buildings. The lighting in here, all of the plug loads, as well as the building heating and cooling. And so it's a huge opportunity for anyone in the energy business and and looking at anything around buildings. So one of the things that we have people lobbying in government to help to bring information to our legislators so that they can put in solid energy and climate policies. We signed up with T. Boone Pickens, who is advocating, of course, for wind power as a substitute for coal fire, or not for coal fire, but for natural gas, and then being able to use natural gas in transportation so we can reduce our liquid fuels import. But he had nothing in there about energy efficiency. So he had about a 38% reduction plan for oil imports with transferring electricity to wind. With energy efficiency added to his platform, we can actually take it to about a 66% reduction if we could get all buildings just 30 to 50% more efficient, which is very doable. It doesn't take a huge innovation to do that. So another thing you might want to do is check your attics when you go home and see if you got enough insulation. We're looking at, there's 80 million homes that are under-insulated in the world, or in the nation today. And even if it was built to code, and even if it was more recently built, the fact is that you may still not have enough insulation as according to what the DOE would recommend and you have to look at where the climate zone that you're in. Of course, our pinkett fiberglass insulation is where we do most of our education around around energy efficiency. And then our CEO had a meeting with President Obama, also with the Home Depot, just a few weeks ago. And insulation is sexy is one of the things that Obama said. And he said, you know, if you're seeing your dollars fly out the window, you would do something about it, but that's what's happening if the heat is escaping from your house in the wintertime. So we use the term now, insulation is sexy, because we thought that was fun. We hadn't thought we had a sexy product before, so now we do. Then the personal desire to achieve sustainability. There's carbon footprint calculators on the line now that you can use. A lot of people are much more cognizant of that, or starting to look at it. But product labeling is coming. That's one of the things that we see, that doing life cycle assessments, understanding what your carbon use is. So all of you that are producing that will be asked how much energy you're using, what's the source of that energy, what's the greenhouse gas emissions that are produced as a result of that. So, I mean, it's just heading that way, that we think within, I don't know what number of years, but within the next 5 years, we have that in our strategy, in our sites, that is something that we're going to need to look at. And that people are going to be making choices on that basis. So just to wrap it up, this is our sustainability report. I invite you to go out to our website. It's www.OwensCorning.com. You can look about us, and you can see our sustainability report is included on all our web pages. And there is a summary report that you can download, and you can get a lot of the other measures and things that we look at. So I'm glad to answer any questions, and particularly how we can relate to your business, and maybe make some parallels, and how I might help you.
Yeah, on the disposal of the used shingles, are you setting up your own recycling center?
Actually, it's Heritage that's doing it. They are taking the product, they're processing it, and then they're providing it to the paving companies. So.
And one thing we've been stumbling with is the economics of recycling.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's counterintuitive, because we've approached a couple of consulting firms that set up some ideas for us. They're trying to find revenue streams for our waste, and they've never engaged in that type of relationship as far as they're acting as our salespeople.
Right.
They actually are. Have you run across any of that in terms of trying to explain the net impact to the people that you're working? Like you're saying, you're working with people within the organization to know what their carbon footprint is. How do you get the economics of recycling understandable to the people that you do?
Well, yeah, you do have to do that. The business model. I mean, the economics is a part of the sustainability, three steps to the stool, or legs of the stool. So, like the glass recycling, we do get an economic advantage. We do get an energy reduction. So, and then we also have a marketing advantage. So, even if we have to pay extra in order to keep at one particular plant, we might have to pay extra in freight or whatever to get that. But looking across, it's a value to the product. So you can't maybe do it at a spot. You've got to look across the product, and what's the intangible value. That might be one thing. But most of the time, we're looking at an economic value as well.
I'm assuming that your process was a lot of refractory and rebuilding of furnaces and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That must generate a significant amount of landfill waste.
Yeah, we don't rebuild them that often, but we still have a lot of waste. That waste to landfill is not at zero, and we've got a ways to go. And the waste that we showed, the picture of the shingle recycling, we're going to have 7 markets, but that's still small too.
We're trying to put together a plan. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
all the puts and takes end up being profitable, or is there a cost there that has to be offset with either additional revenue or cost cutting somewhere else?
Right.
And that's the huge challenge, because you're doing this always.
And it's difficult sometimes to attach a value to a recycled content, for example. But we have been able to do that. For example, we sold some at one of the recent shows that we had. The reason that someone changed their mind, and they had a competitor's product ordered, And they changed the order to ours. This is for a stone product because of our recycled content and our low emitting product, the certifications that we had. So there is value there, and it's continuing to grow as there's more and more interest in green products. But I do agree with you, it's hard sometimes to pin it down, and sometimes you have to kind of try it out and see what happens. Now, we did find out that our recycled content certification was very important about, I guess it was a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, it lapsed because we didn't have the data done, and we didn't have we were working with SCS, and they didn't have the update on the website, and we got lots of calls from our customers saying, hey, we need this certification. So not the way to really find out that it's valuable, but that was one way that we did know that was used.
It's a white elephant that at the end of the day it's actually costing us, and we didn't know until we completed.
Where are you located?
In Worcester, Ohio.
Okay, you might want to check with, there's Professor Joseph Fixell at Ohio State University. He runs the Center for Resilience there. And what he's trying to do is become like a matchmaker, broker, if you will. It's like the matchmaker for, I call it trash to treasure. It's one person's trash is another person's treasure. And try to bring these companies together that can use each other's materials. The U.S. Business Council on Sustainability has also tried to do that in several cities. So if you're not a member of that, you might want to look it up on the website. It's USB Business Council, BCSD, I believe. And there's a couple of organizations, but Joseph Fixell at Ohio State is really engaged in this, and then can help you also maybe put that business model together, because he's had a lot of experience in looking at that whole life cycle. Yeah, I can give you my card, and I can hook you up if you want to do that. What else?
And if you do have any more questions, just we ask you to use the microphone since we are recording this.
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
easier to pick it up.
Any other questions? What are other, I don't know if tell me how we're doing on time. What are other things that you guys are doing that I didn't mention that you can share? Okay.
In the past, I live in a state where we have what I would call a recycling tax. You talked about the beer bottles. When I go pick up a 12-pack of beer, I got to pay 60 cents.
Okay. You're in Michigan?
No, I'm in Iowa.
Okay.
It's only 5 cents. But that instills that I take that glass back for recycling. As I go to different states, here in Cleveland, I have not seen a recycling station within this hotel anywhere. I throw bottles away, I throw glass away. I throw everything away here.
And we've got a plant in Newark. We'd love to get that glass. So, yeah, it's a problem.
Does regulations like that help companies like yours with sustainability to get those type of recycled materials?
We could use more recycled glass. We can't get enough of it. We could go higher in our recycled content if we could get more glass. So that was like that's why we embarked on that project in Kansas City. Now, it becomes looking at the economics, if we have to ship it in, I think our radius is around 250 miles is what we look at. If we have to ship it in very far, then it becomes an added cost, and really then it may not be worth it even from a footprint standpoint. So all those things have to be looked at, but yes, more of that kind of activity and process within and you need to ask, even if you are recycling, you need to ask where the stuff's going, because in your community, it may be used for landfill cover, even though it's recycled, supposedly.
Yeah, that's a great example. My wife is very conscious on recycling, but our recycling doesn't take glass, so that goes to the landfill.
Okay, yeah.
And for our area, she wants someplace to take that glass other than my beer bottles.
Right, and that was the same.
Those get recycled.
Well, yeah, if you have a deposit thing, and as Michigan does too, then that that solves a lot of problems. I grew up in Michigan. That solved a lot of litter problems when that bottle bill went into effect. But we are looking now at where do we have, where we could take more recycled content, and where are those communities that don't have recycling, and can we make a match similar to what we did with Kansas City.
So you're in Ohio, right?
Yeah, we have plants in Ohio.
Do you lobby for, I hate using that word, but, for the government to put in a tax or whatever on recycling?
We haven't specifically lobbied in different states, mainly resources and having the ability to know what's going on everywhere. And most of our lobbying efforts are around energy efficiency and legislation around what the stimulus money is being used for, how we're doing weatherization programs, that kind of thing. So that's lobbying, meaning that we're providing information to the legislators around how to put in common sense energy policy.
This is the question you're asking. It's much cheaper to throw it away than it is to recycle. Landfill costs. Landfill costs for our Tennessee plant triple what they are in Ohio.
Yeah.
And so, like we went to our people, we said they were recycling, they threw everything in the landfill. You're like, well, and then why didn't you go ahead and recycle? Your point, they said it wasn't cost effective for us to put the labor into the continued recycling effort there.
You want to use the microphone, then they can hear you on. You don't want to be recorded.
That's the part that drives me nuts.
Yeah. And yeah, the economics certainly do come into play. And sometimes you need, if there can be subsidies to help get it started and then show a profit stream after it gets up to speed. I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely, if you make it known, though, that this is something that you want, as in like your community, or you're asking the question if you're throwing it in the bin, but you don't really know where it's going, it starts to get people thinking. And that the organization that I work in with Toledo and the Lewis organization, that's part of what we're looking at, is how do we make a more sustainable community? What are the elements of that? What's the footprint of our county? How are we recycling? And Toledo is not really known as a green community, but we're going to change that. And so you can start asking your commissioners and your councilmen, what is happening here.
Another question for you.
Yeah.
Are there some best practices in the metals industry? I mean, steel
The metals
is
industry is doing a great job. Mm-hmm.
I mean, how, as to how it took off and how it became an economic win to recycle the steel. Is there some way to sort of analyze that process?
Well, there might be. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, so.
And they've done a really good job, aluminum and steel both.
Right. The other question I had is the deposit a tax, or do you get that? Do you get your nickel back when you take your bottle back? Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of it's more of a transportation thing, right? Yeah. Okay.
It helps beautify the area.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the glass is probably reused.
You don't see them on the side of the road.
Got another question for you.
Hi. My question, I guess, is more, I'm looking for some advice, maybe.
Okay.
We have a green, what we call an employee action team that I'm the facilitator for. Mm-hmm. And we're doing some things, like within the last 6 or 8 months, we've started recycling. We have single stream recycling. We started recycling ink cartridges. Trying to think, we started baling our cardboard, and we're actually getting, $80 a bale for that, so we get revenue for that, but we're trying to pay off the machine, actually. We've been challenged with coming up with a capital project, and from corporate, they're trying to down select some sites for maybe a solar project, but what other, large dollar investments are out there, or do you know any resources that I can look at for
Well, have you looked at lighting?
that? We've actually changed all of our T8 bulbs to T12 bulbs, all of our fluorescent lighting, and we've actually, the 4-unit bulbs, we've taken 2 out of each unit, and it reduced our amperage by like 40% or something like that. So,
And are you measuring all this?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that is doing the measurement process and then finding out, one capital project you might be doing is metering, can you get more specific information not only on energy, but maybe of other source uses of materials that you're using, or natural gas, or whatever it might be, to be able to better pinpoint where you can make improvements. And that's all the lean manufacturing stuff that I think is going on in all the other seminars. I mean, it really plays a part. It's exactly what we're talking about with getting down to zero waste and looking at where are those big hits that you can make. But that DOE assessment work, I don't know, what kind
I
of
wrote that down,
processing
so.
do you have? What kind of?
We're a defense manufacturer, and we do everything from metal fabrication to electronic component manufacturing,
Okay.
and so we kind of run the gamut on all the different types
Yeah,
of manufacturing.
There's all kinds of tools on EPA.gov, as well as the DOE has all kinds of ways to do assessments of your manufacturing facility, and all different, like I said, there was a fan expert, there was a pumping expert, and I think they're still, doing this kind of work and helping folks figure out, what are the improvements that they can make. And certainly, we've done a lot of, we joined some of those organizations just to find out, what is everybody else doing, because that is the heart of the seminars that you go to in the meetings of sharing best practices. So I really recommend that you look at, especially if there's ones that there are other people in your kind of industry that you can share. That's the fun part about sustainability, that usually it's not proprietary from the standpoint of everybody's trying to reduce energy, everybody's trying to reduce water use, and there's a lot of common things that you don't have to worry about the secret stuff.
Right.
No. Now, we do have our proprietary stuff that we don't give out, but it's a lot of it is common.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. What are some other things that people are doing that I haven't mentioned? How are people doing with their supply chain?
I neglected to mention one thing that we're doing, and I don't know how successful it's been. There's this unit out there, I don't know if you've heard of this, Capacitive Recycling of energy. It's basically a giant
Like a battery?
capacitor that
Yeah.
you stick in between the meter and the building, and for inductive motors.
Okay.
So like compressor rooms, pumps, fans, air conditioning units, things like that. And basically, from what I understand, it takes older motors and recycles that unused energy and makes your machines more efficient. And on one, we've only purchased one unit so far, but we put it on our energy hog, and we've seen about an 11% reduction in our electric bill.
Wow.
On that one particular compressor room. But I, from what I understand, like the Energy Star rated motors and air conditioning units, they already have a similar unit built into them, so I don't know how.
Yeah, and then you got to weigh whether it's worth it just to change out the equipment, or how old it is, or
Right.
what its life is, and
Right.
go through your whole.
So
maintenance
that's one of the other
assessment.
things that we're doing that I didn't mention.
No, that's good, and that's the kind of best practice sharing that you would find in some of these energy forums,
Right.
with the EPA Energy Star.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, there's one back. Sorry, got to get the microphone.
Before, I'm going to be a hog
Oh, go.
first,
Oh,
so-
sorry.
You mentioned relighting. AEP in Ohio, we just went through our relighting. They paid 50%.
Yeah, there's a
lighting.
lot of companies
They
that'll
paid
come in. Is it Sun Edison? They'll come in and they'll assess your lighting for you. They'll change it. They'll do the capital, and then you pay them some of the savings. So that's an opportunity. We also did some solar panels on 2 of our plants where it was, and it was effective because the state had a subsidy for that. So and this was at Kearney, New Jersey, is one of them, where Sun Edison, I believe it's Sun Edison, came in and put all the array up. We buy the electricity from them, so there's no capital on our part. And then we have a long-term agreement for buying that power, and they do they did all the installation, and they got the subsidy then for installing it. So there's things like that, but it depends on the state of whether that's economic. We don't do it if it's not an economic feasibility. So we look at all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good presentation, really.
Thank you.
Great job. All I want to tell you, we work with the supplier. I don't know how much you all do with the supplier. We are able to recycle pallets, cardboard box, and shrink wraps and so forth, and we're successful with working with the major suppliers on that area, so we're recycling those items. How much you all do with that supplier in your OwensCorning?
We are just getting started on that. We have done a little bit of work. We've done some work where we've done some LCA work, life cycle assessment, where we needed information from our suppliers. But we are just embarking on putting a supplier code of conduct together, and based on our policies and principles, we're going to first just start with notification to our suppliers that this is how we want to operate. Now, we get these questionnaires from our customers quite often to tell us what your code of conduct is around sustainability. You know, are you, you know, what are all, and they're all different, but they're the elements that are important to them. We sign off on whether or not we're meeting those, and we're going to start to look at what we can do to extend our influence with our suppliers, but also to gain information and maybe help our suppliers could help us by providing more recycled content for packaging, for example, or making sure that they're adhering to where we have identified materials of concern, making sure that that's not a part of the product. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at. We haven't even tapped into that. I think it's a real opportunity for us.
I don't think you asked, but I'll tell you. We have a plant in Ohio and Tennessee. That's what Tom was mentioning. We, transport material from one plant to other plant and everything. We used to spend more than $100,000 a year just on wooden pallets, and we throw away. We end up with the PVC pallets in the last 4 or 5 years. We've got a tremendous savings.
Reusable.
That's right, and also the recyclable pallets, and even internally the plant. The only thing we're trying to work with our customer, how we can get into that kind of a recycling program especially with the large customer and so forth. The logistics is the problem, transportation is the problem, and we're working on that to see how we can do that.
Well, another opportunity or resource is environmental defense. That's a nonprofit organization that is funded. They have quite a bit of, I can't remember exactly what all their they have a foundation that supports them. They come in and help companies do projects that will help, particularly climate change. That's one of their big things. And as long as that project can be, it can't be proprietary. It's got to be able to be translated or made public for other people to use. But they'll help you set up things, and they'll provide scientists and economists and different people and they don't take any money. They actually don't want to take money from the manufacturer because they don't want to have that kind of relationship. They want to be able to say that they helped create this. They did this and we worked with them on our fleet, on our sales fleet, on changing the type of vehicles that we use, as well as monitoring our mileage and greenhouse gas emissions and fuel consumption for the vehicles. And it was a combination of, you would think that we'd all go to Priuses or something like that, but that wasn't the case because we looked at the cost of the car, the way the car was used, how it was driven, kind of safety requirements that were needed, how much people had to carry, and came up with a different fleet configuration that saved a lot in fuel, and so it saved us money as well. So all those things together, and and our salespeople liked the cars because we had them involved in the process. So that is another organization that you might want to tap into, that if you have a particular project and maybe even on recycling, they could help you with that too. So environmental defense is the name of it.
So I work for SAP, and we've been listed on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for the past few years, and our sustainability report is published on our website. We work with a lot of manufacturing customers, and one of the things we're doing is co-innovating with our customers on an energy management solution, where we can get real-time information from the shop floor and portray that on dashboards so you can get information like if you're having a spike and you might need to do maintenance on machines, or also information like okay, maybe I don't run this job at when energy usage is at the peak cost. So that's something we're working on with our customers. Valero Energy ended up canceling out of their presentation at this event. They kind of developed something like this on their own, which gave us our idea to do it. And right now, we've put this solution into our Palo Alto labs so that we can monitor energy we're using, like to keep all of our computers and everything running in that building. So we're trying it out ourselves before we offer it as a solution.
Oh,
It's
that's
coming out
great.
later this year.
Yeah, and having an energy management system or an environmental management system, which includes energy, that's really key. We're in the middle of working with all of that right now. We have some of our plants are under environmental management systems and some are not. So it's a journey. I mean, there is nobody that's perfect on all this stuff. So it's a way. That's why another reason I like it, because there's always something I can learn when I'm working with other companies, and you just have to kind of look. We do that scorecard thing that we did with Future 500. We did it again. We did it in 2005, I guess, and then we did it again in 2008, just to kind of recalibrate, because there's always the next step and the next opportunity. So it's fun. I hope you are finding that as well, and that it's not intimidating, and that you can get all your folks engaged with you.